Welcome back to the C Morning Show, everyone, for our first discussion of the day. One of our favorite topics here on the program lately, renewable energy. And it is no doubt that energy demands will continue to rise along with economic development and population growth. And as a rapidly developing nation, ASEAN's largest country, Indonesia itself accounts for 40% of the region's energy consumption.
Due to its geography, Indonesia is naturally blessed with massive potential for renewable energies such as hydro, wind, solar, and also geothermal. Now, the country is also known as the second producer for geothermal. And in addition, the government has also planned renewable energy sources development and pledged for a net zero emission by 2060. One of the strategies also includes collaboration with businesses sector.
And to discuss more about this issue, with us today is one of the stakeholders in the industry. Let's say good morning now to Medco Energy Power President Director Eka Satria, who's with us today. Hi, good morning, Eka. Thank you for joining us here in the studio.
Thanks, Carol. Thank you so much for being here early in the morning.
Yes. So, yeah, very exciting news coming out of Medco as you've recently started to operate a combined cycle power plant in Riau. It has a capacity of 275 megawatts. Can you tell us more about Medco's interest in gas power plants and renewable energy in general?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. That's a great question. But let me start with climate change issues. Yeah, I think as we know, the world is facing climate change. We can see, from the things happening around us, right?
Yeah.
And then because of that, United Nations already stated that this climate change issues is one of the critical issues that we need to face.
Correct.
Yeah. And if you look at, if you focus on Indonesia at this moment is the 10th largest growth economics, yeah? And by 2050, Indonesia going to be probably the highest four. The issues with climate change, I think, basically lies on three big issues. Forestry, number two, energy and transportations, and how we're going to handle with farmings and waste management. If you look at Indonesia today, yeah, and how we're going to consume energies, almost 70% of our energies at this moment is coming from coal and oil.
Yeah.
And if you continue to have that predictions, you can imagine how much emission that we're going to produce from the current energy mix. It means that we have to change, right? We have to change. Medco Power, as one of the leading energy producers, I think we need to have contributions on that. So Riau is one of examples, is using the latest technologies on gas. As you know, gas is one of the cleanest source of energies. And by doing so, we would like to contribute also the climate change issues. But not only that, we're going to also involve in renewables. Yeah, renewable is one of the critical element in combating these climate change issues. By the end of this month, we're going to sanction, we're going to produce one of the biggest solar energy in our area, 25 megawatt. And soon we're going to do also in Bali. So we like to participate on these climate change issues.
Yeah, and it's just so ironic that in the first beginning of our show today, where we're talking about climate change and what is happening in the world because, due to climate change, floods,
extreme
storms, heat waves and whatnot, Paika. Now, in regards to what you were saying, and of course, as we know that, there's a cycle power plant in Riau, that is not going to be the only one. And I'm pretty sure Medco is going to establish many more. Can you tell us also about your short and long-term plans of programs and also projects of Medco in regards to, making a change in Indonesia?
Yeah. Thanks, Carol. As I said, energy and transportation is one of the key aspects in combating these energy transitions. Our short terms is basically to shift our operations from the hydrocarbon base to more clean and renewables.
Right.
You can see from the Riau project that we have started, we are planning to increase our contribution on clean and renewables from currently 23% to in the next 5 years, it's going to be above 40%.
Wow.
On the longer terms, I think Medco Energy Groups has pledged. I think we are one of the companies that's saying that by 2050, the company need to be carbon neutrals. This is to support government agenda. I think government Indonesia already saying that by 2060, Pak Jokowi said Indonesia need to be net zero emissions. So the company has started the journey. In summary, we have two things to be done. Number one, of course, we need to invest on the low carbon energy businesses. And number two is that we have to decarbonize the energy that we are producing. And there are various things that we can do. Number one, we can reduce the emission in our operations. But not only that, we can also capture or store the CO2s using either natural solutions. As you know, forestry is one of the things that we can do.
Right.
Yeah.
Or store the CO2s into the depleted reservoir. Indonesia is one of the biggest gas producers. You can imagine later, we can store the CO2 into that depleted reservoir.
What an ecosystem right there. Yeah.
I'm just curious, obviously this has already been in the works. For example, the plant that we mentioned in Riau. Have we started to see the impact of these actions so far already? I know there's still so much, plenty more to be done, but obviously we've seen renewable vehicles on the road, whether 2 or 4-wheeled ones. There's plants like yours, and Medco Energy is not new to the game. Obviously, you guys have been around for quite some time and are very familiar at what Indonesia needs to do to maximize its green potential.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of we have to do it,
Okay.
and we need to
have no
start
choice,
that.
right?
We don't have any choice. I think government has said that in order us to meet that agenda, Indonesia need to reduce the emission by 2025 by 29%.
That's only a couple of years away.
Couple of years ago. And then Pak Jokowi already said that by the support of international communities, we should be able to achieve 41%. But it is not easy to be done. Yeah. So I think we need to do it. We need to start that. You can see now that the government trying to put several incentives.
Sure.
But at the end, it's all about 3 parties, which is the government, the private sectors, and also the public. I think those 3 parties need to join and work together in order us to combat these climate issues.
Would you agree that the third party there is the most difficult one? Because we also know renewables, there's a stigma that it's much more higher in cost. So for an end user, for example, let's just use the most simple example. There's lots of incentives now to buy an electric car per se, but many people would say, oh, it's kind of expensive though to buy, even though you do have some savings in fuel and it's helping the environment. So would you say that that third party is kind of the more challenging one to kind of transition?
Yeah, correct. I think one of the success factors on these issues is the public sectors.
Okay.
I think there should be a push from the public sectors on this area. So I may say that we are all the users, the consumers, need to ask more, because the demand is created by us. If we don't ask for that green conscious demand, then the industries, the government will not do that.
Yep.
So I think public will play a very important role in pushing that agenda.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges too, and again, Pak Eka, energy transition will be one of the main focus and also the discussion during the G20 summit. What plays, this role, especially in the G20 summit, and what can we not only being discussed, but what be impacted after the discussion and also the summit?
Yeah. I believe G20 will play a very important role, and Indonesia at this moment leading that G20 under Pak Jokowi. I think what we like to see, at least from the private sector, is that we need to see that during the G20s there is a consensus among parties. How are we going to combat this one? But most importantly is that the real action. Yeah, I think we need to see real action. We need to show how we're going to do it. In Medco Power, during the last energy transitions working group on G20s, we are signing with PLN that we are going to build 2 by 25 megawatt solar farm in Bali. So we're going to make sure that at least Bali will be an island with clean energy sources. So we're signing that. We're also planning to participate on that G20s in terms of how we're going to collaborate, with SOE, for example, with Pertaminas, with PLN, because they are playing a big role. The most important thing also is that how others will support us. The problem with the energy transition is all about three things. Yeah. Number one, the energy need to be affordable.
Yes.
That's number one. The energy also need to ensure that we can get a security from it, and also sustainability. Each country is different. The problem with Indonesia that we are developing countries. Yeah? We still need to increase our energy need, unlike the developed countries.
Right.
With our predictions of growth, by 2050, Paul and Carols, Indonesia will triple the energy needed. And the question, how are we going to address that?
Right.
Yeah, so I think we need to address that on G20s on what we call just transitions, fair and affordable.
Would that be an opportunity, though, for you to, let's say the energy needs are 1/3 now as what it will be predicted in the future. Couldn't you just use that as an opportunity to say, okay, instead of increasing just the energy needs, but increase it with renewable energy? I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but wouldn't that be an opportunity, kind of a segue for those that will need energy in the future, more energy in the future?
Correct. I must say that this energy transition will create a lot of opportunities. I think I mentioned about the target that government set up. In order us to do that, at least 20 billion US dollars needed for the sectors. For the transportation energy alone, minimum $10 billion. At this moment, Indonesia only spent $2 billion. The question is where the 8 billion coming from. There is potential businesses among everybody, among those three sectors. And the opportunity is very huge, not only for the private sectors, but for the micro, small, and medium enterprise companies.
Yeah.
I think in the futures, people need to focus on the, number one, on the low energy resources businesses, and also people need to focus on the sustainabilities or green conscious businesses. It's going to be very huge in the futures,
Right.
the businesses.
And regarding not only about the public and also the communities, but we're talking about now about the SMEs sector, especially those that is, the small, micro, and small, medium enterprises. Do you think they are ready? And how can they just, transition and adapt to this new energy transition? And how does Medco play a part of it so then they can also be a part of the ship also?
If I can add on, piggyback off your question there as well, education is kind of needed a lot of these, especially with MSMEs. A lot of people aren't aware of this, and how are they going to transition and make the change?
Correct. I think if you look at our micro, small, medium enterprises, I think they comprising almost probably 60% of Indonesian businesses, right? I think they need to be ready. They need to be ready.
Whether they like it or not, right, Pat?
I agree with you. I think upscaling know-how, knowledge, we need to do that. Why? Because in the futures, the world will be facing the next of energy transitions. I think the world that we know today will be that based on oil and gas is going to be based on renewables. Because the world need it, and otherwise the humanity is going to be impacted with this. We need to be ready. And I urge everybody to start looking on this one, because it's going to be huge potential for Indonesia. Let me tell you with this. Indonesia is blessed with renewable resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
It is predicted that Indonesia at this moment will have around at least minimum 400 gigawatt of resource renewable potentials. Indonesia consume at this moment only around 50 to 60 gigawatt. So you can imagine, the remaining can be used not only for Indonesia, but also for export. It can be used for the revenue of Indonesia. Potential is huge, we need to grab it, but in order us to do it, I think the state, the governments, the private sectors, and the public need to
Yeah.
participate on this one.
Is it, when you say resources, you mean like natural resources, like
Natural
nickel
resources.
and things of that sort?
For example, sun.
Mm-hmm.
We are blessed with sun in
Yeah.
Indonesia.
All year round.
Yes,
Yeah.
all year long.
Hydro, we are blessed with that.
Correct.
Wind.
Yes.
Geothermals, you mentioned about geothermals.
Yes.
So we has to use that potentials.
Right.
Use it because this one of our strength in the future.
Yeah, why not
definitely.
utilize it when we
Yeah.
already
That's
have
true.
it,
You
no?
don't think of a lot of this.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned one of the challenges is finances. It will certainly almost always is when it comes to business. But what other challenges do stakeholders experience, and what do you basically need to create a better ecosystem for green energy?
Okay. I think simply said here is that we need to make sure that the business is attractive.
Okay.
When you create the business attractive, a lot of people will jump into it. So I may say that the big homeworks that the government has at this moment is to create an incentive package for the private sector to jump in. That's number one. Number two, I see the issues of easiness of doing businesses. So all the permit, all the things that
Right.
for us to
Red
enter
tape.
into this business need to be simplified.
Right.
Yeah.
And the most important thing, of course, you mentioned about financing.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of money to do that. At this moment, there is a lot of institution launching green bond, green funding.
That's right.
I think we need to tap into that. Yeah. But of course, at the end, the government play a very significant role in this one.
Yeah.
And if we look at success stories on how each country or specific countries grow these renewables, is all about policies by the government.
That's true.
So I think I like to stress that out. I
Yeah.
think we need to make sure that renewable sectors, clean energy sectors has a good incentive for us to invest.
Yeah, and you also mentioned, Pak Eka, renewable energy is set, especially in 2025, to 23%.
Yes.
You see this as a possible mark?
The answer to that, we have to.
We have to, okay.
But at this moment,
Yes.
I think despite all the progress that you mentioned, Pak Paul, I think we cannot do business as usual.
Okay.
Yeah,
We
there's
have
a
to
lot
ramp
of
it up.
changes need to be done.
Right.
So big homeworks, big tasks in front of us.
Yeah. I think we're up for the challenge as well because
Yeah.
we have such a huge population.
Yes.
We have a great government that is constantly offering us incentives and not scared to change regulations. So I think we need to continue to do so if we were to see. But that again is on the government end or from a stakeholders end. But me and Caroline, we are homemakers. We work as regular citizens.
Yeah.
What can we do? Do you have any personal tips on what we could do to implement a better or more green lifestyle?
Of course, we are all the users, right?
Correct.
Yes.
So, I think, let me put it this way. Simple way here is that ask ourselves our carbon footprints. Yeah? The simplest ways to do it here is that the first pillars in energy transition is to basically eliminate unnecessary power demand. So the simple question here is that when we wake up or when we left our home, have we turned off the lamp?
Yeah.
Correct.
Or have we used the energy efficient lamp at our home?
Yes.
Ask ourselves.
Right.
The other things that we can do, you love cycling, right? Yeah. Or when
Dabble
you
in
go to the office, can you share the
Carpool.
Carpool,
carpool?
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I carpool with her all the time on the way home. Give me a ride.
And also waste management, yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Yes.
one of the issues that we are facing at this moment is energy to curb with how we handle waste management.
Yes.
So when we go to the supermarket, instead of using plastic, why don't we bring,
Yes.
our own bag?
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, our own bag. And the other things that help is protect our forest. In our home or garden, do we do gardening? I mean, do we grow plant, for example? Because plant absorb CO2s. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But the most important thing here is that we are the one who drive demand, and we are the one who drive the governments on what we like to see Indonesia.
Right.
So we will play a very important role in creating the demand by, asking. For example, when you're buying stuff, do we buy the staff with green conscious products.
Make better choices.
Yeah.
Make better choices.
Right.
Ask governments to also, provide, more cleaner energies, things like that.
Yeah.
But believe me, countries that successfully do energy transition is when the people have the green conscious mind and demanding, that, we need to have a clean energies and we need to have a better societies, because of this.
I think we need to also stress that we need to change people's mindset. Sometimes people tend to think like, oh, what's the big deal if I do this? Well, if everyone just does a little part, what I'm saying is, what you do, if you think it might be a little thing, but don't ever think that way, because if everyone just does something very little, it makes a big impact.
Correct.
And it's better for you anyway. For example, I'm always chasing my kids around the house, telling them to turn off lights every time they leave the room. But it's better for me overall because that saves me on electricity, and that's how I can reason with them.
Yeah.
Maybe my kids are too small to understand what a green environment is, but I say, hey, Daddy doesn't pay a lot of bills for the electricity, so you help turn off all the electricity and air conditioners when we leave the room.
And just one more, in regards to you were saying education, right? But you were saying all the information that we needed to hear now, right? And so, but the public needs to also be educated. If we're not doing this, if the government is not doing this, stakeholders, private sectors, and even the public itself, what would happen to our country? I mean, that would be the big question mark that people needs to be aware. What would be happening if we don't do this
If we
energy
keep down this
transitions?
path, right?
Yeah, I think thanks for this invitation. Yeah, I think this session is good because we basically socializing, the climate change issues. I think the study in UN say that Indonesia will be one of the most impacting countries because of climate change.
Right.
Simply because we are on the, we have a lot of island.
Yeah.
We have probably 14,000 inhabitant islands. If this climate change cannot be addressed, it is predicted that more than probably 2,000 islands, inhabitant islands, going to be submerged,
Gone.
gone. Yeah. I think Indonesia is ranked as most vulnerable countries because of the climate issues.
Yes.
So for us, it is a must. Not only for us, for our next generations.
Yes.
And we need to keep socializing this, and people play a very significant role. I think, don't forget, we have 270 million people.
Yes.
And soon we're going to have, by 2050, 370 million people. If each of them, voicing this, you can imagine what kind of power we have.
Yes.
People behind that.
Yeah.
People behind that.
Right.
So we need to do it.
Yeah.
By the way, I notice everywhere on social media or on the news, a lot more younger people, and I guess because the future is theirs, a lot more younger people these days, Indonesians, are so much more conscious about energy and climate
Yes.
change, right?
Yeah.
And they're actually the ones that are wanting to do something about it. And I
Yes.
think that's a great thing as part of socializing
Correct.
because, sometimes it's the older generation that's more difficult to make
But we
changes.
can keep up
Because
though.
it's happening. Hey, are you
Yeah.
considering us as the older?
And also
I'm part of,
Eka.
I'm saying I'm part of
And
the
also
younger.
like, we heard that you enjoy cycling
Yeah,
too,
you
but
mentioned
you were, is that your part of saving the environment too?
Yes.
Okay, so you cycle not just for exercise then, right? I mean, it is something that is helping to reduce
It's a
emissions.
movement.
Correct.
Yeah, so there you go.
And actually, we should be proud, because our young generations, I can see at least my son, is very green conscious. I mean, and I think as we have a lot of young populations, we hope that it's going to drive our energy transition. As not only it's going to save us, but also we can use that as one of our economic growth engine in the future, renewables.
Absolutely. Especially since the G20 is in our hands this year, and we can use that momentum and continue to ride that green wave. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us here, Pak Eka. Really do appreciate you taking the time out this morning.
Yes.
I know it's a little bit early for you than your normal office hours, but I really do appreciate it.
And hopefully next time we're going to go not by our car speed, but we're going to go cycling, okay? We're going to follow Pak Eka in what he does every day.
I'll take a ride anyway I can get it.
Thank
Anyway,
you,
Pak
Paul.
Eka, thank you for
Thank you
joining
very
us.
much, Pak Eka Satria.
All right, we will take another short break here, but in case you are just joining us, we have some recaps of our earlier stories from Indonesia and around the world when we return. Stay with us on the C Morning Show.